When looking at an animal or a plant, you assume it is a single, distinct individual. You picture one body living one independent life. But if we peel back the surface, that strict boundary begins to collapse. Across entirely different scales of life, nature abandons the single-body design. To survive harsh environments, organisms merge into interconnected networks, expand into massive clones, or stitch themselves into specialized colonies. Figuring out exactly where one organism ends and another begins forces us to rethink the baseline rules of what constitutes a living thing. Take Physarum polycephalum, commonly known as slime mold. It is a single-celled organism with no central nervous system and no brain. It hunts for food simply by expanding its pulsing vein-like tubes across the forest floor. This image shows the massive, sprawling railway intersections in Tokyo, a pinnacle of human engineering. To test the slime mold's capabilities, researchers placed oat flakes on a wet surface, matching the exact locations of the cities surrounding Tokyo, and let the organism loose. As the mold explored the map, it dissolved dead-end tubes and thickened the ones connecting the food nodes. Within hours, it formed a network nearly identical to the real Japanese railway system. The biological web achieved the same transport efficiency and fault tolerance as the human-built tracks. If a part of the line was severed, the organism instantly redirected nutrients through alternate routes to keep the whole system alive. It achieved systemic optimization and advanced problem-solving entirely without a brain, relying entirely on the physics of flowing cytoplasm. If you visit the Fish Lake National Forest in Utah, you can walk through what looks like a sprawling stand of distinct quaking aspen trees. Each trunk has its own branches, its own leaves, and its own immediate space in the soil. But DNA testing reveals that this entire 106-acre expanse is actually a single clonal organism, famously named Pando. Thousands of years ago, a single seed sprouted. As it grew, it sent out a massive, interconnected root system, pushing up exact genetic clones of itself. Collectively, this shared root system and its 40,000 trunks weigh an estimated 13 million pounds, making it one of the largest single organisms on Earth. Unfortunately, this massive organism is struggling. Forest managers and scientists are currently studying the grove because the Pando clone is experiencing a steady decline, failing to regenerate new stems to replace the dying ones. It is an entity so large that it blurs the line between an individual and an ecosystem, disguising itself as a forest while living and dying as a single body. Deep in the ocean, the boundaries dissolve even further. This is a siphonophore. At first glance, it looks like a single, long, drifting jellyfish. In reality, it is a colony of thousands of individual, multicellular animals called zooids. To survive the deep sea, these tiny animals physically fuse together and divide the labor of living. Certain zooids morph to handle all the swimming. Others lose the ability to move, but handle all the eating, reproducing, or stinging. Another group of pelagic creatures, called pyrosomes, assemble into massive gelatinous tubes that grow several feet long and drift over the seabed. The walls of this cylinder are built from tightly packed, repeating zooids. By constantly filtering water through a mucus net, they capture food, and the exhaust water from their feeding actually propels the massive bioluminescent structure forward. In these depths, individuality is a shared illusion. Thousands of bodies surrender their independence to operate as a single, synchronized machine. Back on land, there is one more network that forces us to question the limits of biological independence: common mycorrhizal networks, or CMNs. These are physical fungal threads that spread underground, heavily entangling themselves with the roots of different plants. You might recognize this from popular articles as the Wood Wide Web. The common narrative suggests older trees use these fungal highways to consciously care for their offspring, sharing food and warning signals to nurture the forest. This chart shows the concentration of nitrogen isotopes found in young seedlings grown near an older donor tree. The data confirms that resources do physically move between plants through the fungal threads. However, the volumes transferred are incredibly small. Extrapolating from tiny isotopic shifts to claim that trees possess altruism or conscious intent oversteps the available data. A more rigorous explanation views these networks as a biological market. Fungi operate out of evolutionary self-interest, extracting limiting nutrients like phosphorus from the soil and trading them to the trees in direct exchange for carbon sugars. But stripping away the human-like motives doesn't make the biology less impressive. An entire forest floor bound together by multi-species physical threads, bartering elements to survive, is a masterclass in adaptation. Whether you are looking at a brainless organism drawing transit maps, a massive clone masquerading as a forest, a glowing deep-sea colony, or a transactional fungal web, nature proves that survival rarely happens in isolation. The boundaries of an individual are incredibly fluid. Which one feels strangest to you? The brainless problem solver? The one-tree forest? The animal made of many bodies? Or the forest network that people keep arguing about? Please let us know down in the comments.